Hello, this is Mike from You Can Do It Too, and we're back on Project Rowdy. Today we're going to try and get this tub taken off the frame. I finally got a little spot in my workshop where I can set it off to the side. So we're going to get this pulled off. I've enlisted the help of a couple friends, actually both my sons and my nephew. We're going to try and get this thing lifted and pushed off, and then we're going to be able to go down and start inspecting, you know, everything about the frame, the brake lines, fuel lines, kind of take some notes on how that stuff's run and start planning on the refurbishing of those components. So without further ado, let's get this tub off. Over here. Alright, now we gotta hitch it just to the wall. We can go all the way. Can you look out there though? Take it soon. You got this one more, you good? Maybe a little bit. We got room. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Okay, so I've been waiting a long time to get that tub off. It's really held me back from continuing on with this project, but now that we got it off, kind of go over a few things. These body mounts probably have not been replaced since this thing was new back in 1979. I think that's about 43 years. Some of them are heavily cracked, like this one over here. You know, the bush thing is just needs to be replaced. It's going to be replaced anyway. But it appears that most of the frame mounts themselves are actually in really good condition. So I'll end up taking the rest of those off and check that out. When I did take the bolts off, they all came out pretty well. These will all get lubricated, and I'll go ahead and pre-tap those as well. They all made a bunch of noise, and there's no way to really lubricate those when you pre-lubricate them before you take them off, because all that rubber that's on there just doesn't allow you to get the lubrication to get in there. But it's like a capture nut. They seem to be okay. There's only one or two in the very back that actually got that really snapped off. I don't have to worry about getting those off. Now, one of the things I want to illustrate, I've seen a couple videos where guys will document how their brake and fuel lines are run. Now, this is a 79 Jeep CJ7, and it is a Golden Eagle that had a 304 V8 engine in it. And what's different about what I'm finding on my fuel line and brake hoses is they're all on the driver's side. A lot of guys are showing where their supply fuel line runs up the passenger side, but that is not the case on this vehicle. So I don't know if it was specific to the V8 engines or maybe the Golden Eagle for some reason, but those are all. That's a fuel supply, a fuel return, a tank vent that goes up to a charcoal canister, as well as the brake 3/8 inch brake line, all running down this side. And you can see even right there where all three of them go under a clamp. You know, that's not, someone didn't replace any of that. That's original. So I wanted to make a note of that. But we're going to start off. I got the help of my youngest son, Austin, today. We're going to get these, let's get these shocks off, front and rear, and then we're going to try and get these differentials out of here by taking off the leaf springs and get this frame loosened up. Let's get started. Watch your fingers when that comes out. wire. You may want to, can you back down?
It's not going to roll over.
Okay, so that wasn't all that painful. You know, it went, I guess, easier than I expected. I expected a lot more fight. There was some pretty tough bolts. We did lubricate what we could. You know, the front spring purchase, or those spring brackets, those gave us the most trouble. Actually had to break out the breaker bar. And really the rear shackle bolts, those kind of rang off. But at the end of this video, I'm going to go through kind of the plan of what we're going to do when we rebuild this. We're not going to reuse any of that. It's obviously getting new suspension. So what we got to do now is we got to move on to the front. Okay, I'm usually not into such sketchy type stuff, but someone has borrowed my jack, my floor jack, and so I don't have a better way of doing this today, and I really like to kind of get this done. This side we took out knowing kind of that side would hold it up, so the only reason this hasn't kind of collapsed is realistically the other side. But I'm about to take, I've taken the bolts off that, I'm about to take that side out. Instead of letting it drop, I went ahead and secured it with this board for now. It's just temporary. And obviously, once that we get those pieces out, I'm just going to slowly kick this out and let it slowly collapse up. The backs are still completely attached. But if I can get this to collapse that little 6 inches, where these are standing up against these, then I can freely take the back off, and there's not going to happen to it. So. Well, how was that for some progress? We got the tub off and we got the front rear axles out, so now the frame is kind of all by itself. I am going to take the frame to a shop, have them put it on a jig and make sure everything looks square and straight, because the previous owner of this Jeep prior to 1988, I've owned it since '88,
they did wreck it, and so I want to make sure that this is square. I don't want to build a new Jeep on top of a bent frame, so we're going to get that all straightened out. I did look back at my intro video just to confirm that I'd mentioned this, but I'm going to stick with these original front and rear axles. They are the narrow track. While I greatly prefer the wide track, the look of the wide track, I've just kind of come accustomed to this particular Jeep having this narrow track rear end in it. Now I will, for the rear end, the front is a Dana 30 and the rear is the AMC 20. The rear does have the two-piece axles, and so I am going to at least do an upgrade to that. There's a couple companies I'm looking at to see which brand I want to go with. Primarily I spend a lot of time mostly in two-wheel drive with the Jeep, but you know, I do want to have the front end. We'll definitely service. I can see where there's some leaking, so that we'll get into those details when we start looking at refurbishing these particular axles. But I am going to be doing a suspension upgrade to this Jeep. This is again the CJ. There's a YJ spring conversion that a lot of people are doing, and the YJ front springs are 2.5 inches, while this original spring is only 2 inches. So it's a wider spring, it gives a little softer ride. It's actually also 1 inch longer. But I bought a whole kit, a whole suspension kit from Rocky Road Outfitters, and that's already come in. We'll as we get this cleaned up, start putting back together, that whole kit will be going in. So that's going to probably should give us a lot better ride ultimately. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this update, and I hope if you're new to the channel, or you decide you like a project like this, you decide to follow along. There is a playlist that has all 33 previous videos of what I'm doing to this Jeep, and it plays, if you hit the playlist, it actually plays every one of them in order, which is kind of helpful as well. So I hope you decide to follow along, you know, the simple stuff, the like, comment, subscribe. Hope you decide to follow along, and see you next time. Take care.
Jack it up.